The Baltimore Ravens made a genius move that not a lot of people are talking about. We talk about that. Lamar Jackson sending a fiery message, takeaways from the Ravens Stadium, training camp practice on Sunday, and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here today on this Monday for another week of Locked On Ravens content, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. 5 days a week here on Locked On Ravens, Monday through Friday. Plus, we have bonus episodes over the weekend, which we had a couple of. We also do lives after every single Ravens game, every single piece of Ravens big news, and we had an instant reaction to the stadium practice yesterday. We'll get into that a little bit more in the final part of the show, but that was really fun jumping on after that and breaking everything down. We also have the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, which is live on Mondays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with myself, former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail, as well as Sam Njoku. So plenty of Ravens content and coverage for you over here on the channel on Locked On Ravens. And today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. If you're watching in video form, you might be wondering, Kevin, why does it look like you are ascending? You know, I got the little white outline. It's because I'm using a virtual background of what is going to be my old background, barring anything crazy. We're doing a revamp. I've been hinting at it. What's going on? What's the big announcement? Well, we're revamping the whole thing. And if you're listening in audio form, you might notice I sound a little bit different. We have the new mic, and I mean, if you're in video form, you see it on the screen. It's been 6 years since I started doing this. Almost, we're coming up on the 6-year anniversary, and I figured it was time to get some new equipment in here. So we're adding new things in, starting off with the mic, and we're just going to continue adding things before the regular season. But it does require me to change some things around in the room I record in. So, we're going to be adding new things, and we're going to have kind of a reveal session all the way up to the regular season as things come in and we get things situated. So it's really exciting. Hopefully it sounds good. I'm going to check after the recording, but I'm pumped. I'm pumped for it, and still have a couple of other really cool announcements for the season. We'll be diving into a lot today. I mentioned the stadium practice takeaways. We'll get to that in the final part of the show. Lamar sent a fiery message, and I think it really embodies kind of where the Ravens are mentally as a team right now. But in the first part of the show, Ravens made a genius move that really not a lot of people are talking about. So I want to talk about that and give some attention to it, because the Ravens actually hired a former NFL referee to help them with penalties. They hired Tony Michalek, and I think I'm pronouncing that right. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. If I didn't, I apologize. But Tony Michalek, who I think is going to help him in a big way. Now, the Bills went this route last season with hiring a former referee. And I liked it when the Bills did it, and I thought it was a really intriguing and honestly kind of innovative way. Maybe innovative is not the right word, but it was really cool to me that they did that. And now the Ravens are following suit after a year. Last year that we know, the Ravens really struggled with penalties. They had 132 penalties last season. That was tied for the second most in the league, only ahead of the New York Jets. Baltimore also had the second most penalty yards in the league against them at 1,120. Now, Michalek, he worked 23 years as an umpire from 2002 to 2024. He also worked a Super Bowl during that time. And there are a lot of things that he can help the Ravens with, whether it's interpreting the rules, preventing penalties, explaining why penalties happen, maybe some, I don't want to say loopholes, but maybe some things they could exploit in the rule book that could help them, not in like a cheating way, but like hey, this is a legal thing. Remember, John Harbaugh has done that a couple of times, actually one Super Bowl winning with Sam Cook, and the Bengals game where everybody's holding everybody as time expires. And, the Ravens won that game against the Bengals all those years ago. The NFL actually added a rule in the rule book against it. And then the Super Bowl one was the same thing. Sam Cook held the ball in the end zone everybody held, flags flew everywhere, and the Ravens were able to run time off the clock. So that essentially is a rule now. You can't do that because of John Harbaugh. So Mitchellette can help with that. Now, the Bills, they hired John Perry. I mentioned that. And the proof was in the pudding here. And Ryan Mink of BaltimoreRavens.com, he put this stat out where the Bills improved from being the 7th highest penalized team in 2023 to the 10th highest penalized team in 2024. So, I mean, it wasn't that big of a jump, but still, look, I mean, honestly, even a little jump is a jump. Even a little improvement is an improvement. And while the Ravens would have to have another really bad year to be the second most penalized team in the league, I mean, I would take a jump from 2nd to 5th. I mean, 2nd is terrible. 5th is also terrible, but it's less terrible. So I will take less terrible. And I think the long-term effects also on just things that players and coaches that are on the Ravens, like things that Mitchellette can have stick with them, things that he can tell them that will stick with them throughout the rest of their careers. I think that's going to be really big as well. You know, the Ravens have placed some emphasis, in fact, a lot of emphasis on penalties this season, right? I think that Eric DaCosta, the Ravens organization, John Harbaugh, everybody, they are very innovative in terms of ways that they want to like get every little technical advantage they can, you know, whether it was last season or I guess, last season into this offseason where the Ravens signed back Deontay Johnson and they, brought him in not to play him after that whole debacle and he got cut by Houston and, the Ravens brought him back. It was, no, let's see if we can get that extra comp pick for him. Like the Ravens, they're so technical in what they do. That's the word I keep coming back to. It is technical. And so I think this is a genius move. It's an underrated move because what we saw last season, especially in just the biggest moments, it felt like too often, were the Ravens having a great run on first down. Let's just provide an example here. Great run on first down. You get the 2nd and 1. Nope. Holding. All of a sudden, it's 1st and 20. And it just ruins your momentum. It honestly depletes drives and, in my opinion, loses games. Like it's a fact. It does lose games. And, you can see sometimes John Harbaugh confused on the sideline, the players confused on the sideline, and we've seen plenty of bad calls go against the Ravens, and every team deals with it. But, it felt especially egregious last year for Baltimore, and maybe that's me with the purple colored glasses, but I truly felt like there was some, like week 1 against the Chiefs, right? I think that Mitchellette could really help with what happened in week 1 when Ronnie Stanley kept getting penalized for illegal formations. And he said that he felt like he was getting targeted and the NFL was trying to prove a point, not having guys line up so deep in the backfield. And, the Chiefs, by the way, Juwan Taylor was who they employed last season, who lines up deeper than anybody in the league, I think. But it was, of course, Stanley. So, again, Mitchellette could help with that. Like, hey, is the NFL calling this right? Why are we getting penalized here as opposed to some of these other teams? Like, what's the deal? This, to me, should provide some level of improvement. Now, Mitchellette isn't suiting up on the field for him. So, he can't help in that regard. Like, it is going to just come down to execution. I'm not expecting like, oh, hey, the Ravens hired a former referee. They're going to be the least penalized team in the league. No, that's not going to happen. But every little advantage you can get, every single one is an advantage. It's an advantage. And the fact that the Bills saw a jump with it, albeit a small one, but still a jump, I think, in my opinion, the Ravens did the right thing here, did a really cool thing. And I think that for Baltimore, they'll be able, if they're able to cut down on the penalties, both offensively, defensively, special teams, it's going to not only lead to more wins, but it's going to lead to more improvement across the board in a lot of different categories, right? Whether it's, being able to sustain drives for longer, or for defense, you're able to get the offense off the field. Because if you get a pass interference penalty, and we saw this with Brandon Stevens, we saw it with Marcus Williams, like, all those guys, and not, they like Marlon Humphrey is super physical. He can get flagged for a bunch of different stuff. But look, when you're a defense and you think you have a 3 and out and it's like a 3rd and 12 and you get an incompletion and all of a sudden there's this ticky-tack pass interference call, that could extend a drive like 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes, right? Like, and that's maybe like more to the extreme level, but it can literally not only save you time of possession, but within that, you're able to rest. You're able to save your energy. Maybe it prevents an injury for somebody. Like, there are those little things, and that's like really getting big brain about it and like diving into a lot of different, like, very little details, but little details matter. Like, man, crazy. And look, knock on wood, that does not happen. But what if some guy gets injured on the 10th play of an 11-play drive that could have ended after 3 plays if there wasn't a penalty call, and they could have understood it a little bit better and maybe not done something like that. It's stuff that counts. So at the end of the day, the Ravens are really in the right here, in my opinion. And I think that with the Bills, with the Ravens, other teams, I believe a couple other teams have done this. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me on it. But even if it is just the Bills and the Ravens, I think this might be something we see a little bit more throughout the NFL over the next couple of seasons. So genius move, in my opinion. Give the Ravens a lot of credit for making it. And, we'll see how it turns out for them, because Ravens have had their fair share of struggles during training camp about penalties. And, you only read so much into that. The Ravens are working on a lot of stuff, and you want to get that out in training camp as opposed to the regular season. But still, there are a lot of different ways that Baltimore can utilize Tony Mitchell here, and I'm excited to see how they do it. Coming up, though, in the second part of the show, Lamar Jackson, he sent a fiery message, and it really encapsulates where the Ravens are right now as a team. So be sure to stay tuned. We got plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. And for me, I come from a golf family. I've seen my fair share of crazy shots, hole-in-ones, the whole 9 yards there, and the boost you get from 5 Hour Energy, it is a game changer. Golf's all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Monday, a new sounding edition of Locked On Ravens. We got the new mic. We're making some moves. We're going to continue to add. Camera, lights, background. I don't know what the background's going to look like. Obviously, we had a good run with the bookshelf. I mean, we're still using it right now, but I'm going to try to spice it up a little bit. So we'll see how that all goes. But again, I don't know how it sounds right now. I'm recording. I'm going to go check it after the fact, but I'm excited to have a new sounding Locked On Ravens. But let's get into Lamar sending a fiery message here. The Ravens, they're a team that's hungry. They've had a bunch of playoff failures. They understand that. They have a chip on their shoulder. In fact, multiple at this point. There's a lot of fuel that's going into what is now one very large fire. And there was a tweet just, on Twitter. It was by one of the big fact accounts that's on the app. So, just tweets out facts, random facts at that. And the fact was, a flock of ravens is called an unkindness. So if you did not know that, hey, you learned something today on Locked On Ravens. All right. So who said this show was an educational, not just for football, but just in general? So, if people didn't know that, or if you're learning that for the first time today, you're welcome. But anyway, Lamar Jackson then quoted that and said, "For now on, this what we on." I think he meant from now on, this what we on. But again, Lamar, unkindness, chip on their shoulders, a lot of fuel to the fire. Ravens are coming, like, they mean business this season. The Ravens mean business. And I'm not going to sit here for a full segment and analyze every single word in this 7-word Lamar Jackson. No, we're not going to do that. What I'm going to use the segment talking about is just how important it is for the Ravens, 1, to win a Super Bowl this season, and 2, why I am tired of the revenge seasons. All right. I'm tired of the revenge seasons. I've talked about it for actually a couple of months here, really ever since the season ended last year. This is that they've had too many. This is the year. This is the revenge tour seasons. All right. I'm done with it. The Ravens, when you're talking about the talent they have on this roster, the experience that they have, the heartbreaks that have piled up for them, this is a really important year. And we've talked about what it could mean for John Harbaugh. We've talked about what it could mean for some of the players on the roster, not Lamar Jackson, obviously, in terms of if he's going to be there. Lamar's not going anywhere. But, they have a lot of guys that they have to bring back. They're probably not going to be able to bring them all back. As I've said multiple times, this roster the Ravens have, this much talent does not come around very often, right? You have to take advantage of years like this in the best way, in a championship way. And so you hear the fire, you hear the motivation, right? You see it in the way that they practice. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit coming up in the final part of the show when we dive into some stadium practice takeaways. But I think that the Ravens are going to play with a bunch more physicality. Not that they don't, or not that they didn't last season, but like they're going to take that up a notch. I think that they truly are going to I don't know if you've seen I guess it's a meme at this point, but the picture of a guy playing a video game and he's kind of laid back in his chair, and all of a sudden, like it's an arrow, it's a drawing and it's an arrow, and all of a sudden he sits up and he gets real serious about the game. Feels like that's what the Ravens are about to do this season. I think the Buffalo loss really lingered and stuck with them. I think the Kansas City loss really lingered and stuck with them. But I think having both of those back to back, and look, I mean, as fans, like we feel it, right? I'm sure you feel it. I feel it. Like having years like that, and we can debate all day on which one of the 3 losses was the worst. Was it Tennessee in 2019? Was it Kansas City 2023? Buffalo 2024? But Lamar kind of saying this, and you hear it from a lot of the players, and it's not even just about, oh, we're coming like this season, or we're about to do this. Even Nate Wiggins and his availability a couple days ago on Saturday, he said that like he was just playing off talent. And so for him, like, yeah, it's scary what it was going to be like in a good way, because now the game's slowing down. He's understanding stuff. But I always made it clear that they're tired of finishing where they finished. And look, they've earned that. And that's not a good thing, right? That it's unfortunate, but they certainly have earned it. And the goal for them, like, they could go 17-0, and this is a very hot take. It's hotter of a take than I thought it was, but I want to explain it because I understand both sides of it. The Ravens going 17-0 in the regular season would be all-time historic. It would be an incredibly fun season, at least regular season-wise, right? Like, there'd be so many good things to come out of a 17-0 season for the Ravens in the regular season. It'd be great to watch. Like, it'd be awesome. But obviously what counts in the long run, especially for a quarterback of Lamar Jackson's talent and how good he is already, it's Super Bowls, it's playoffs. And, if the Ravens go 17-0 in the regular season and then lose in the divisional round again, those same conversations pop up. And honestly, they probably come back louder considering how historic that team would be. And so there are 2 sides of the argument. Like, one is regular season doesn't matter, only playoffs. 2 is enjoy the regular season and enjoy the playoffs. I honestly think both. I agree with both. Where, long story short, where the Ravens are and the talent that they have and the expectations they have, anything less than a Super Bowl would be a disappointment regardless of the regular season. Because what do we remember? We remember the 14-2 2019 regular season, some moments in there, but it's not talked about as it should be because they didn't win a Super Bowl that year. 2023, they were historic defensively that season and offensively too. I mean, they were dominant. They ran through the NFL, that Christmas game against the 49ers, like so many moments, but it's not talked about the same way because they didn't win a Super Bowl. Same thing in 2024. The second half of the season, how historic that defense was. I mean, first half had some ups and downs. It wasn't quite as dominant, like full year through as 2019 and 2023 were. But man, I mean, that was still a really good team by the end of the season, but they didn't win a Super Bowl. So, the Ravens, they can have that mentality, and they certainly seem to with the way Lamar Jackson sends this message here. And, everybody seems to be talking, players, coaches, executives in that organization. And that's the mindset that they should have. And they should strive to get better every week, to build momentum in the playoffs, or going into the playoffs, I mean. But it also is just like, despite how good the regular season is for them, a lot of teams would do anything to have the consistent regular season success the Ravens have. I'm not saying it's for nothing. Like, being able to essentially guarantee, not like 100% guarantee, but almost guarantee the Ravens are going to at least have 10 wins and, make the playoffs. Like, that is consistency so many organizations, so many fan bases would do anything for. So I'm not taking it for granted, and I don't think anybody should take it for granted. But when it comes to expectations, the Ravens have those. And obviously, I think for a lot of people, it is Super Bowl or bust. So it's great to see the fire, great to see Lamar continuing to double, triple down on that, as well as the rest of the team. And I mean, you got to wait for January for the playoffs, but there are a lot of things we're going to obviously discuss during the regular season. Regular season, it's fun. The regular season is fun, and we should enjoy it. But when it's playoff time, it is time to lock in. Coming up in the final part of the show, though, we'll dive into stadium practice takeaways. We'll get into that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes that all possible. And Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And the seat views, they are right there in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be, which is an absolute game changer. And if you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal, Gametime Zone Deal picks the best seat in your section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you here. It is Monday. The Ravens actually have joint practices tomorrow with the Colts. We'll be live, instantly reacting to that. After the fact, we had an instant reaction stream after the Ravens joint practice, which was really fun. And appreciate everybody who tunes in live and who tunes in after the fact in video form and in audio form. It's always a blast doing those, interacting with the community both during and after the streams. So it's great. And we're going to be diving into some stadium practice takeaways here in the final part of the show. If you want a more detailed kind of reaction, be sure to go check out the live stream and the audio version. If for those who listen in audio form, it's not that we're not going to be detailed here, but we're only doing one segment on today's show. We did 3 segments for the instant reaction show. That's what I mean by that. But I thought Lamar Jackson played really well, or at least practiced very well. He was dropping balls into buckets. Keith Kirkwood, he beat Jaire Alexander down the sideline. Still great coverage by Jaire, but Lamar dropped the ball right into the bucket. He also had a play, Derrick Henry, deep down the field over Trenton Simpson. Again, just dropped the ball right in. Lamar, he's so technical. He showed off elusiveness. He had a jump pass. I think it was to Charlie Kohler or Mark Andrews. It was to somebody, but he had a jump pass. It was just a short little gain, but he evaded pressure. Actually, on that throw to Keith Kirkwood that was deep down the field, Daniel Falele got absolutely blasted by Travis Jones, and Lamar still was able to get that ball off with Falele pretty much in his lap, which was it makes it even more impressive than the highlight just looks without even noticing that fact. Now, that also comes with the flip side of that, which is, Daniel Falele is getting pushed back. Now, Travis Jones is a very strong human, so, Falele is not the only one to get bullied by Travis Jones, but, I don't think the offensive line was particularly sharp for the most part. Fairly felt like the defensive line won the day. Mike Green was awesome during pass rush drills at the end of practice. He had 2 plays that would have been back-to-back sacks. One, he bent around the edge. The other, it was a stunt, and he was able to come up the middle and would have, again, gotten that sack. So, I just feel like the offensive line, it's stuff you work on, right? It's, again, things you're going to try to get better at over the course of training camp in the preseason. But, I mean, those guard spots are a very big worry point for a lot of people, including myself. I'm rooting for him. I really am. But we're going to have to see it consistently against some really, really good players. And again, it's iron sharpens iron. So Valele's not going to have to see Travis Jones in the regular season. But, Chris Jones and a lot of other good defensive linemen, they are out there. It's going to be a test for him for sure. Tyler Loop was probably the headline of the day, though. Don't want to bury the lead here, as he went perfect on 10-plus attempts, including a 60-yarder and a 56-yarder. Looked really easy for him, had room to spare. We talked about that all on the live show, and I told the story they told on the broadcast, which, again, preseason for me here as I try to figure out this new setup. Certainly preseason for the Ravens broadcasting team, as there was no sound for like a third of the practice, and then there was no sound for half of John Harbaugh's press conference. Like, again, it's preseason for everybody. I totally get it. I understand it. I'm going through it right now with this setup, trying to maneuver things. I got to get my light. I'm using my old lights. I have new lights and I'm trying to get them working. So I get it. But they told a story when the audio was working about Tyler Loop, about how apparently when he was a kid, when he was jumping off the diving board at pools, he would want to get all the attention on him, get all the eyeballs on him while he was, jumping off and doing cool things, I guess, on the diving board. I think we all have been there. Maybe. I know I was just, I'm just saying. But that kind of shows that he wants that pressure. He wants that attention. He embraces it. And the Ravens actually had it where the crowd at the stadium practice, if you were there, you were watching, they were all getting really excited, cheering and giving that like game day feeling to Tyler Loop, which I thought was really cool. So, I think that for me, Loop is somebody that is good. And I talked about this on the live stream. He's going to have growing pains, going to have ups and downs, but again, it has to be better than what Justin Tucker showed last year, right? Like, JT was all-time historic when he was on the field for the Ravens, but last year it was a struggle. Actively lost them multiple games, was hooking things wide right, clearly a technique issue. He wasn't really able to get down until the final quarter of the season, which when he did, he was great, but it took a while to get there. It did. So Loop was awesome. This was also his first full day kicking since John Hoyland was waived, so really good to see him make an impression. I thought Keaton Mitchell made a really good impression too. Justice Hill, honestly, too. Both those guys looked fast. They looked speedy. The burst, explosiveness, it was there. I think the Ravens wide receivers get criminally underrated, and I'm not talking Zay Flowers or Rashod Bateman or D-Hop or any of those guys. I thought Malik Cunningham had a good practice. Tylan Wallace, DeJounte Wester was involved. Kirkwood, obviously, we talked about. So, at the end of the day, I think that everybody kind of assumes 6 wide receivers and that last spot goes to LeJounte Wester. And I still think LeJounte makes the roster, but could they keep 7, or could they maybe make a surprising move and cut LeJounte Wester and add a guy, Anthony Miller, also another one I forgot to mention there. So there's a lot of depth, and it's far cry from the days of what we were talking about maybe 5 years ago when it was really hard to find 2 receivers you trusted on that roster. So, I mean, good for the Ravens for building up all that depth. Other things I noticed, they really, really, really were emphasizing turnovers, punch outs, late ball punch outs. There were a couple fumbles, interception. The Ravens have to force more turnovers this year more consistently, particularly in the postseason, which they have not done a good job of in the playoffs. So really good to see them doing that. And then I thought Tavius Robinson had some nice plays. Rashod Bateman had a drop, which was tough. They did some run drills, and I thought Malaki Starks filled him really well, albeit against third stringers. But as we talked about it on the live show, he did what he was supposed to do. If he didn't do that against third stringers, I'd be a little concerned. So he did what he was supposed to do. Really solid day overall at the stadium practice. Really great turnout as well. Felt like the energy was really high. So great day for the Ravens. And again, they'll be back at it. Tuesday joint practice is going to be something that's really exciting because, you get to this point in the offseason and in training camp, hitting your own guys, you get tired of it. You want to go hit somebody else. And the Ravens will have an opportunity to do that on Tuesday. We'll react to it live after the fact. So be sure to stay tuned for all that. But that's all I have for you today on Locked On Ravens. Thanks so much for tuning in. First new sounding episode in the books. Crazy. It's milestones here on the show coming up on my 6-year anniversary. And of course, we'll be adding in new elements to my new setup as the weeks go on, as the days go on. You know, it could be a daily update thing. We get a new thing in every day. We're going to see. But again, that's all I have for you. Be sure you stay tuned. We'll be back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens, talking more Ravens football. And of course, we'll be back here for the squad show later tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to stay tuned. And I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.